And he's really well, he's really
Charles-
well respected, but don't tell him.
Back to the C3. Why is there that smoke shop on River Oaks Boulevard? Did they go in before?
It was before.
But is it, so
Like
let's
this,
say that they, that one and then the massage place by, in that next strip center, if all of them were to leave or go out of business, the ordinance states that they can't, that type of business cannot go back into that road.
No.
It's based on use.
No.
It can.
So when we put it in, it's made not to affect an existing business. The best example is these automobiles. So like Don Martin was worried to death, all of a sudden he can't sell his business as being a tire or repair shop. He has just sold his business. And I thank all of y'all for visiting, by the way. I have as well. I understand both of y'all were there, so. Great couple. I think that's exciting to have them here. We'll be doing ribbon cutting for too long. But anyway, that was the point is that it was designed not to hurt any of our existing businesses, kind of just new ones.
If the use is abandoned for 6 months, then the use goes away.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But for, during that 6-month period, if someone picks up that same use, they can do that.
So do you want us to leave, like, are we passing this tonight or not passing it tonight?
Oh, you won't pass it tonight, but if we're ready to go forward with this draft, we'll need to start having public hearings, probably in July.
So, besides the footprint, the percentage on the exterior of the building, which I agree with Charlie, we shouldn't limit it because it's, like, if they're gonna take up, if they have 10 parking spots, they're gonna take up all 10, that's not a good business. So, besides that, the whole masonry and the exterior of the building, do you want us to leave it in there? Do you think that we should, or do you think that we should just take it out since we can't enforce it?
I think you ought to take it out, because it don't look like that law's changing anytime soon.
State issue, is it not?
And yes, state decided that. But to Steve's example, I would think that we could also put something in there that states what we like and it can be handed to anybody. Do what?
Yeah, this is our recommendation.
Yeah, we could make something
I
that's
mean, you
printed
can tweak the wording
correctly.
a little, but I think it's better for people to know what can go on, so it's speak to their.
Do you understand what I'm saying, though, to have a positive message that goes out with everybody that inquires about anything?
So we leave it in there and we just say,
No, I'm saying we pull it out. In my opinion, you would pull that language out if we can't enforce it, but we can also have a document made that explains what we prefer,
Yeah,
and
okay.
let that be handed to them when they come
Yeah.
get a permit, or,
so it's not in the ordinance per se, it's just a separate document that we can update without having to bring it back to council and stuff like that, right?
Right.
right.
Is that right?
Potentially. I mean, if you take it out of the zoning ordinance, yes, you wouldn't have to bring back an amendment to the zoning ordinance to change that. I guess I'll just say depending on where you put it, if it's not something adopted by council, right, then it could be amended without action of council.
Can it refer to other documents, say C, development plan, or whatever?
Sure.
Do you have an opinion?
Your zoning ordinance refer to the...
This or, yeah, maybe not.
You'd just be referring to your land use anyway, so if you would prefer to have masonry, you can say you preferred it, but
Yes. So, Steve, you could do that. We could talk about whether that'd be preferable. My thought, it's more of a practical thought, is if you want to say it in the zoning ordinance, let's just put it in the zoning ordinance. But you could say...
I feel better about leaving it, but the others thought.
You could certainly make reference if that's something.
So the other real thing here is that, obviously a lot of work has gone into this by you guys. Thank you very much. I think that most of us agree with most of it, if not all of it. Is that pretty safe to say for you guys?
I think the only thing.
So how do we move forward without it just being, I mean, I'd like to look it over closer myself and make...
Personally, I wouldn't leave a 0%, I mean, have no percent. I would rather put in 50% or some number that you think is big enough.
You're talking about on the outside
On the
storage.
outside, yeah.
And I'm talking about the whole document here.
Right, moving forward. And then the
Yeah,
car wash thing, I'm with you. think and maybe even the rest of the automobile stuff should be, because, I mean, we don't wanna, that makes sense to me to have empty buildings and, because we're too restrictive in general, especially new buildings, or new, you know.
Well, like you have new buildings usually, but that's, my personal opinion is, part of the problem that this city has with its commercial corridor is that we have too many buildings that are ran down with, non-local owners that are what I would call slumlords. They don't wanna fix their place up, they rent to a business because their rent's cheap, and then, it just, you know, the whole cycle just keeps going with a business that might not survive if it had.
Right, but in general, the depth of the lots is
But I know,
a big
not being-
problem, right?
Not being boarded up, I'm with you.
Yeah, but I mean, compared to new builds, our lots aren't deep enough to build the kind of structures and have the parking. So you're forcing something into this thing that doesn't really fit.
Yes.
And when they go somewhere else and buy a new and build exactly what they want, that where it gets in there.
So-
The other thing, just on that, the council was under, you know, no develop, this is many years ago, but you know where the U-Storage is, there's a bunch of land there. And we waited years and years and years for something to go in there. There used to be, what, a Long John Silver's?
Yeah, the Long John Silver,
Taco
Dairy
Bell,
Queen,
and the Dairy Queen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they went away, and for 20 years,
It was
there was nothing there. So
Mhm.
finally, this group came along, and we cut off major, good retail, sales tax generating land, but we were desperate.
Yeah.
I knew the guy that owned that property. I asked him, why aren't you doing anything? He said, what's a tax, he was a banker, it's a tax write-off. We're just sitting on it for a tax write-off.
To your point, that's why
Yeah.
land gets locked up,
Yeah.
and it's not as productive as it is otherwise.
So, I have another question, kind of for, Chief Shelley. Wake up. So, one thing I wonder about addressing is if we're talking about the amount of merchandise allowed out in a parking lot, I know that like in Fort Worth, if you open a restaurant, part of the occupancy is based on how many parking spaces per table or something of that nature. I've heard you have to have one parking space for every 3 seating spaces, I guess. But that's my only question is there a safety issue? Is there something that needs to be addressed there so that you don't have too much stuff in the way?
So I'm not familiar with parking being based on number of tables in a restaurant. Occupant load is based on square footage of the building and what the intended use of the building is, and there's a table in the fire code that dictates how many square feet per person, based on whether you're gonna have tables and chairs, or fixed chairs, or movable chairs, standing room only, whatever it may be.
Right.
But as far as parking,
So like don't we even require a certain amount of parking
I think you're
spaces?
thinking
Yeah, that's a
alcohol.
zoning ordinance. so.
You got what I'm talking about in Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, really?
You have to have a parking spot for every 3, I believe it's every 3. And the experience I have didn't have alcohol, it was a barbecue restaurant, but.
now, most cities do have parking ordinances as part of their development codes that tell them how many parking spaces based on the use going
And we
into
have-
But it sounds like you don't think there's a safety issue based on what I just want to throw that out there to make sure
I
we're
do
starting to make those kind of decisions.
As long as they're not blocking access to the building, I think we're fine.
So what if we did 50%, and then we take all that verbiage out, we're gonna put it in a different document, and we move forward with the public hearing? Okay with that? Are y'all okay with that?
Well, there's more stuff than just that.
There's the car wash.
Well, but, I mean, those are the two big, that, everybody agrees with
Several pages.
everything else y'all have in here. Those were, I think, the only two that we had questions about, unless there's something else that we missed.
And so actually if you have public hearings, so what does that mean? Obviously, the public gets to say
The
so,
public gets to testify.
but it almost sounds like we need to go ahead and do that to find out what they want or don't want as well before.
Yeah.
But that's part of the legal process of changing